Hello there, internet and beautiful creatures of the beyond. Long time no see. I know. I've been busy. Um, Today we're going to try something different. It's not gonna be vector design. It's gonna be raster design, and I've been busy with this mod, and I'll show you in a bit. Well, it's not finished. There's still quite a lot to go through, but I wanted to present to you guys the design philosophy and the steps that I take to iterate all of these designs and so on, which is not easy. Even though I'm using the stable diffusion to generate these portraits, because I've generated quite a few, almost 300 of them, so that's a lot. And even with that, it took me almost, I think, 3 to 4 weeks since I started the project. And I'll show you why it takes so long because you would not imagine the pain. Also, if you come from the Starsector forum, welcome to the channel. You shall not escape now. You are in my clutches. And let's go a bit around what we have here. So I'm using Affinity Photo. If you use like GIMP or anything else like that, it's pretty much the same kind of tool. This is more akin to Photoshop, although Photoshop is super overpriced. And I've worked many years with Photoshop because I used to work in design and do a lot of product design and so on with Photoshop. It's a very good tool, but this one is the best alternative if you're on a budget or if you're doing projects that, you know, it's just for personal use. And you still have to pay for this software, but at least I like their approach, their marketing approach, because you buy the software and it remains in your possession. And I think you get support for the software for each version they release for about 1 or 2 years, depending when they release the new version. And it's pretty robust, you know. They have the other one. What is it called? Affinity Design and Affinity something something. That so the other one is for vector, and they have another version for PDF file creation or whatever they're called. So they're pretty solid. They still have a lot of issues, technical issues here and there, but when it comes to some of the tools that I'm using in here, they're pretty good. Some of them are even better than what I've used in Photoshop before. Also, if you still love Photoshop, there is the alternative of Photopea or Photopea, and you can transfer and work with all your PSD files into that site. It's a website, it's online, and it's free. So there you have. And you can also, when I'll finish with this, I'll post it on the mod forum so people can have access to all of the materials that I have worked with, and they can also import whatever I worked here into Photopea for to work on a PSD file that they have. Right now, I am doing the portraits for one of the sub factions, the mercenaries, and they're quite well. There are just a few of them. There are a handful of them. So this is why I'm going to present it. I'm still not fully implemented all of the portraits here. There are quite a few that need retouching, but we shall go through all of them. So this one is pretty much done. Most of the things that I generate, well, maybe I should start presenting to you guys how the generation process works and why it takes so long. So we're using this guy over here, which we can clearly see that his mask and helmet and whatever is kind of fused into his face. But I still like the design a lot, so I thought, yeah, I could regenerate some new concepts with this. And I've taken this and I've used this prompt over here. Well, you can amplify this prompt to be even more accurate than what I'm doing here. But the point of the prompt is that if you want to have consistency over your portraits, this part shouldn't change. This should be your base, the foundation. These are like the parameters. And if you go and change this, it's gonna create very diverse palette of results that you're not gonna be able to mix very much. But this part is very interchangeable and very flexible. Well, after the digital painting, I like to keep the digital painting in front. So this is the middle part that you can play around and introduce a lot of variation, so that you can implement like colors and hair and eye, eyes, shapes, whatever you wish. So this is the last result that I have decided to get out of this. Uh, well, I specified that I wanted a helmet on, so that's why this is covered. But this also kind of mixes in with the rest of the lot. But these are not for the mercenaries. These are for another faction, which are called the Independents. Well, whatever. We shall get to the game later, but I highly recommend you check the game. I'll put the link in the description later on if you want to see it. Now, let's see some of the other variations, and you shall start to see why this takes so long. One portrait can easily take you an hour. Like this one took me around an hour to get to something that I found rather manageable. I'm not gonna describe in here too much of this. I'm probably going to put it in the uh, forum mod post that I'm going to set up for this portrait pack, and I'm gonna discuss there more you, which sliders you should play with and which you shouldn't, and so on, and how you can tweak your results and etc. Now, the cool thing about this is that this tool, in my opinion, is very versatile. If you are a person who does not have the know-how or does not have the artistic inspiration to paint or draw, and you have a hard time doing that, but you have a very vivid imagination and you have very great ideas, this tool puts at your disposal a huge palette of designs that it can mix this together for you. Again, not perfect, but it does around 80% of the job, let's call it. Well, 75, 80, around that percentage, I would uh, scale it to. The rest is like you got a lot of artifacts here and there that are distracting, so you will have to edit them in some software, such as Photopia and etc. But those parts are not difficult, it's more about techniques, which I'm gonna show you a few, and they're very simple to implement. Now, every time you get a result, you can either amplify this. I amplify this to 100 steps. I usually start with 50, and then I increment it 25 steps to see if I can redefine some of the smaller aspects that can be tuned out and uh, fleshed here and there to get a more polished design. And if you truly like this design, for example, I can go another 25 steps. Oh, sorry, not 25 steps. We can go. This is gonna look horrible. Let's remove this. We can go with make similar images if we really like this design, and we can get. Well, right now it's probably still going to use this as a base for the variations that's going to result out of this, but that's not a problem. And it's still gonna use the same prompt, but we shall see. And it's gonna go with a batch of 1 of 5 right now. Then we have this. Looks decent, it's not bad, could be improved, but it didn't quite fit the rest of the independents, armor and face, and it was a bit out of place. Let's see, this is gonna push the rest of the results down because these are going to generate 5 images. So this one doesn't look so good. Also, this takes, oh look, it takes 2 minutes, well, let's say 3 minutes or 3 minutes and something. So for each portrait, you can spend hours. So for this portrait, I generated around 50, and I'll show you some of the most horrific ones that I got. I did try other base portraits as well before to get some other results, but let's wait for this to finish. We just have to wait 1 minute and 56 seconds. This one doesn't look too bad, but I don't know. The helmet is kind of, the shape of the helmet here is kind of pushed outside, and the costume is, I don't know. It has a weird angle to it. Could be better. It could definitely be better. Maybe if it was like a woman inside and had hair and it would go around the back and the front to cover some of these details, it kind of could get there and we could redefine some of these elements and flush them out. This one looks horrible, especially I suppose it's skin that's protruding through the glass here. Plus this glow isn't helping very much, but this can be easily fixed. Sometimes you can get a really horrible design like this, and you could have a better design like this, and you could say, well, I kind of like parts of, I like this helmet, but I also like this armor. So maybe I want to implement this helmet over this armor. So we can overlap these two images, start to removing some of the details from the one on top or below, and we can get sort of mixed uh, a mixed subject that we like. This one doesn't look bad, but it's more on the feminine side in my opinion, because I was working for the masculine version right now. And the armor is kind of sketchy. Not bad. Could be pushed 25 steps and see where it leads. Sometimes it can even change some details of the armor. I'm gonna push this 25 steps just so we can see if there's a difference. It does change some little artifacts here and there, but not by much. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But again, you can mix them in whatever software you like. This one has a mustache, but it's horrible. The eyes are not working too well here. You're gonna get a lot of this. This is still a decent result considering what else is down below the horrific circus show. But we shall go through all of them in just a moment. And this is still the prototyping phase. Um, so don't get scared because this still looks so horrendous. Come on, come on, come on. Generate it. 6 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, go! So let's see. Here, I think this changed a bit. No, it did not. What about this part? Well, pretty much it kind of looks the same. You can see some small shifts here and there, especially on these parts, if you see. Like this one disappears, this one becomes a little bit more blended inside here. Mm, this part has changed a little bit, but these are not very important. The important things is usually when you're pushing 25 steps is to fix the face features. And sometimes if you have something that glints too hard, or you get some shapes that are blooming on some parts, and you can see if you can fix those. Anyway, let's go to the horrific part. So this one still looked pretty decent. This one was too crude. This one helmet is just no. This one was interesting. Whenever I type military or mercenary, I get the recommended American flag, but they're all looking horrible. So obviously, I'm gonna remove them because there is no Murica faction in this game. It's in the far future. This one looked interesting, but this part could have been done something better if we would push 25 steps, but still the color palette and I don't know, it didn't fit. Oh, this is a nice troglodyte. This one isn't actually all that bad, but again doesn't fit the design. This one was decent, but the his body was too narrow here, and I thought I could have fixed it and so on, but it's just I don't know, things are a bit shifted too much on his armor. This was an interesting component that I liked to showcase in his design. Sometimes the software generates some really cool ideas that you can play with and even morph towards something more extraordinary. Helmet, no. Nah, nice, but still didn't fit too well. The helmet here was kind of floating in the air. This helmet looked nice, but again, morphed and merged too many things inside. No, just no. This one was too plain, and I didn't quite like this artifact on the top. This one wasn't bad, but again, a lot of details are missing here. Could be pushed to see if we can get something better. But, well, I tried to... I have some helmet versions, but I wanted some face one. This one is just... Mwah, chef kiss. Love it. I love when their eyes are just starting to float away from their face. Although, look at this detail, it's like superb. I really love it. Also, I set up 512 by 512 for uh, a faster generation. Obviously, you can go with whatever resolution you want and how many steps you wish, and set up the sliders to whatever sensitivity you like. But if you like to get prototyped results in a decent amount of time, and some of the general prototypes that I got out of this software are 90% okay. Well, maybe less. But the idea is that they need very few uh, retouches here and there. So I try to avoid things that are too asymmetrical or too shifted around or just. But sometimes there are some cool mistakes that I incorporated just because it gives that alien feel. So we here we can go a little bit more flexible and let loose with some design elements. So we shouldn't be so strict. Helmet didn't look right. This one was cool, but for some reason when in the game this part looks a little weird. So I avoided it. This one looks a little bit too feminine, so it didn't fall into my category of male. This one was cool, but it was a bit too sci-fi. The helmet was looking a bit too... I don't know. I left it off. Then this one was too plain, too military-like. I don't know. This one is no motorcycle helmet. This one again, it was morphing into the face. Another okayish helmet. This one was asymmetrical and was pushing in all directions. Didn't work. No. Although cool design. This one wasn't bad, but too plain here around the eyes, and the interior of the face looked too cartoonish. This side, I don't know, didn't fit. Love it. Love it. I should have put it. Although the armor doesn't look that bad. It's okayish. Simple but okayish. Morphing into the face. Too much difference. And the nose and the face. Yeah, nice, perfect. No, the eyes are going away. Eyes are messed up. This one looked like a car racer, and we're still doing this for the same. So you can see how many results. I'm gonna just go through a few more. This one I kind of leaned towards, but then the face was shifting weirdly, and mm, mm. I tried to heighten up the steps, but didn't work. This one, the helmet wasn't looking too great and feminine-like. No, nope. I like the hole. You can make a googly eye here. This is the initial results, which I said, I'm gonna leave it for later, and then I'm gonna push some steps to see if I get something better out of it. And I went with it. Helmet is just off. This looks more like a samurai. Nice, but no. No. Nah, this one was kind of grubby. I don't know. A little short in the face. No, helmet is off. Head is too small. Eyes are just woof. The eye problem again, and the helmet is weird. This one looks like a clown. Eye was glinting here, and the helmet is weird. Too stubby, too chubby, whatever. Again, too chubby. No neck. This one was like a giraffe going out of his shell. No. This one was cool, but I thought that sometimes it generates some logos here. Whatever. It's important for you to understand that this is not an artificial intelligence. This is an intelligent algorithm. So what an intelligent algorithm does, you give it a prompt, okay? So I said a digital painting of a space mercenary with a helmet on. So it it looks into its database and it checks, do I have a head with a helmet? And it, or a body with that fits kind of like this thing that has a helmet. So it does not have the ability to recognize what a helmet is. The helmet, it just has a tag. So it has a large pool of samples that look like helmets, and it kind of goes around to put some pointers that it uses for reference to generate a model of how a helmet should be, and it knows that the helmet is on top of the head, so it takes the face as a reference, and then it looks like images that have different helmets and tries to mix them in, or takes the head with the helmet directly, or just looks for various things that it can mix through its database. But it's not able to identify what design can work best. So this is why we have like this helmet totally does not belong to this costume. Although it does try to mix some of the color, but this is more helped because I used the option image to image, and it kind of tries to sample some of the colors from this image. And this image looks a little bit more natural in the color gradients, because yes, this is gray and red and so on, and it moves to this grayish, I don't know, grayish green, something like that. And it kind of tries to simulate this here, but it just simply doesn't work because this is more metallic on the surface, as we can see, while this is more, I don't know, fabric. So yeah, it does not understand that how fashion works. But most of the time it does get decent results, but just because it has a large pool that has some basic examples, and I think it also learns from every interaction that you do. So for example, when you download an image, it remembers, oh, you like this image, okay, I'm gonna set in my database that this is better, has a better approval rate from users, that looks more human like and more immersive in design. Again, too chubby, but still sometimes you want to get very deformed things, because you can create, if for example, if you want to do graphics for, I don't know, a horror game or something like that, you might want something that looks totally disfigured or anomalous, or something that's totally set out of place and it gives you a great idea how to improve that design and make it even more horrific. And I've done that to a few of my characters, for a few portraits that are from some of the more marginalized factions, and they look really good, even though they have some horrific deformations in the face, but they just look perfect for me. We shall see. This one, too many colors, didn't fit. But alien enough, although the helmet should have been a little bit more rounded towards the back, or some other details. Not bad, but again, didn't fit the design of the rest of the independents. Weird face. This one was cool, but I thought it looked too futuristic. Some design elements here were a bit too unpolished and bland. Face is messed up. Face is messed up. And again, well, it's for the same portrait. So you can see how many designs I have, through how many iterations I have gone through. This one is actually decent, but there is this glint, and it kind of implies that there is a visor from the helmet, but it's totally missing. And I could have simulated, but then I didn't like this element, so I said, well, I'm just gonna try to iterate other things. Weird design, didn't fit. Although they're still pretty good designs. You can see an eye in there. This one would have been interesting if the visor was completed here somehow, and the shadows would have been a bit softer, but still a pretty good design in my opinion, even if it's flawed. Helmet is off. This one was, oh, actually I did use this one. This is the cool part about doing similar images, and you can get some really good designs, and you can reuse them to generate alternatives, like generally speaking, more people that look like this guy but in similar armors. So you can kind of make a theme of what you're going through in your faction. Too cartoonish. This one is the one I pushed 25 steps. Too, not bad, but not good either. And these are some variations that I've tried. And I'm already using other portraits here. I've actually used this one, I think. Anyway, so I like the face inside here. Even if it would be a reflection, it would still look weird. But again, fun times, fun times. You can spend literally waste hours into this software just trying new concepts that inspire you. And every time I choose a portrait, for example, this one, I kind of try to apply to it a story behind it. Maybe this guy was a convict, or he came from another faction, or he, kind of try to implement him in the world that he lives in. So the colors have to feel right, the shape of the costume has to feel right. So he has to fit in the global story of the game. There is also lore and so on. It's pretty cool. So I kind of try to mix things, also try to diversify it, also try to make it in some parts a bit more specific. It's based on how you feel it's developing. Don't go after my designs. My designs are based on my tastes. You should always try to push your own tastes when you're creating your own designs. But I know I spent quite a lot of time going around how the prototyping phase works, and it's very important for you to understand the prototyping phase. But now let's go back to our designs that I have chosen, and these are pretty good in my opinion. This one is pretty much finished. This one I did a few. Well, I worked a bit destructive, to be honest, but destructive means I just edited directly on the image without doing separate layers to kind of turn back in case I do a mistake or I want something else. But the destructive settings that I have, editings that I have done are for the better in my opinion, and they fixed things that were just too off-putting or out of place or distracting the eye from the main subject. the face, generally speaking. This one is actually, this one has a problem over here. We can see the eye protruding through the glass. So we're gonna do a destructive element here, editing here. And usually what I would do, I would just take a brush. Oh, I have to, I don't know, this is so weird for me. I have to rasterize the image every time, and I'm not sure why. And again, I don't know what. Oh, now I can't rasterize. Can rasterize? Okay. It's weird. I don't know. So we take a brush over here. Let's lower the size. I hate the fact that you cannot right click. Right click should be a thing. Some people just try to right click and select their settings from over here in a prompt over here. Anyway, so we're gonna take a sample from here. I'm gonna use my pen tab, and then we're just gonna do this covering stuff, you know? Or you can use the clone tool, or you can use the patch tool. But I found a nice tool that it's called in painting brush tool. And I haven't seen this in Photoshop. Photoshop has some of these tools that we see here, but this one I haven't seen. So maybe it is in the latest versions, I don't know. But it kind of makes the design blend so much cool. Like, oops, this one doesn't work like that. So we can try to push this and push it and push it. Although, well, actually I can leave it like that. It's not noticeable anymore, the eye. But, you know, simple edits like that. Maybe I could do, let's try a smudge. See how this works. It's just small edits. I have it on, the hardness is very small. Maybe I should reduce the flow as well, but whatever. I like it. It looks okay. So we can save it. I'm gonna export it later. Now, this one I worked a bit more on it, and we can kind of see that this part is very distracting over here. So, well, I already edited, but I made it specifically for our session here, a separate version. So what we can do, let me reset the default. We can go onto our mask here. I created a simple mask. You can just select the image, then go and add a normal mask. You can also, I like some things here in Affinity are more interesting than in Photoshop, because you can kind of expand all of these things and use this as a sort of a mask of the image itself. It's cool. I like it. I like it. So we're editing on the mask, and we want to remove part of this. Oh, can't. Apparently, oh, I know why I can't, because I'm using the blur. I need to use the brush. Sorry. So we can use something like this, and we can slowly go over. And this is not painting over, because I'm using the mask. If we disable the mask, we get all of the details back. So I'm kind of hiding it. And we can go a little bit closer. Maybe take some part of this. And when I get this close, I just reduce the size so I can be more precise. Oops, I don't know, this is weird. Go in and zoom. You can zoom in a lot. In Photoshop, you cannot zoom past a certain thing, but here you can edit the pixel itself, which is cool. Sorry about that. I like to play and experiment things. Okay, let's remove this slowly. And some of the little things here. And again, I'm trying to be loose here. You don't need to be this accurate as I am, because this is gonna be a portrait and it's going to be shrinked in the game around. I think the game has 128 pixel by 128, and I'm using the 500, so I get more detail out of it. But again, you can just play around, and you can do it even better with the pen tool if you want to remove more accurately than what I'm doing here. Something like this. So already it looks better. If you want to return some of the details, if you messed up something, just change to white and go slowly over the edges here. But again, this is already overkill. I just like to... I'm a perfectionist. I like things to be perfect. Okay, so this is the version that we edited right now, but this is the version that I did previously. Oops. So yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of the same, more or less. Maybe this one is even better. Anyway, that's beside the point. And I did one more here. This one had some glint over here. Again, I used some of the tools here to remove it and correct the mask over here. Some artifacts are over here in this eyebrow. Let me see if I have the original. Here. I think it was this one. So you can see these things were just messed up here. So I corrected them here. Well, I haven't done much editing past these things. Now I'm kind of, these are for the independents. So they look sort of like this. This one, I softened some of the face elements. As you can see, there were some harsh elements here. I can remove. Actually, I kind of like that. It's just random. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it. Maybe soften this part a bit, because it is a bit too edgy. Actually, let's try and see what happens. Maybe we can soften it a bit. So, oops. I'm in the wrong portrait. I actually had the original over here. Perfect. If you're going to do these destructive things, try to make a copy of it. That looks a bit better. Let's see. Yeah, it is a bit softer. We can... Well, actually, no, I'm gonna leave... This could be part of the hair. So I'm just gonna leave it like this. So yeah, interesting how all of these things come together. In the end, I hope to make something more unique when it comes to Starsector and to its portraits. Not that the portraits that are currently in the game are bad, in fact, they're very beautiful, but considering there's a lot of them, there are about 200 portraits, and I've made around 300. And the ones that are made in the game are kind of crude, but they need to be because they wanted to save time so they can focus on other things of the game. And creating a portrait takes a long time. For me personally, if I start making a portrait and I use references and so on, and since I also love to be a perfectionist, it can take a few days, even up to a week, and so on. Depends how much detail I want to add and how much I play around and so on. So if you're going to mass produce a lot of portraits, a tool like this, like Stable Diffusion, is superb for anyone. Even if you don't have any artistic inclinations, just use it because it can open so many possibilities for you to create beautiful art that you can imagine in your head, and this software just kind of plots it out for you. And I kind of feel like we should embrace this part of technology that is out there. I know part of it is pretty destructive and trolling, but at least this part of it is very constructive and fantastic for anyone, not just designers and artists and so on, for absolutely everyone. And I've seen um, new algorithms out there that can make music and animations out of simple photos, or they can take faces and swap faces, or de-age certain elements of people in videos, like very, very amazing stuff that most of us would dream we would do someday. But now the technology made it possible to be here, and you don't need super sophisticated computers and processors and so on, because a large majority of the processes happen online. They don't even happen on your computer. Some of them happen on your computer depending on the software that you use. Like for example, this software, the Easy Diffusion, does use my video card to generate these things, but it also connects to its database on the internet to search through all of the images that it has available, or it can crawl on the various sites. And for example, I said ArtStation, and I know it is a bit, you're taking the works of other people and kind of mixing it into your own, but it becomes a new type of work. And of course, I'm not doing this for profit or anything like this. Obviously, I am presenting here for educational purposes, but I am also doing a mod, and I never tell people, hey, buy my stuff because I make it. So I try, whenever I try to do something, I always try to give attribution to it and the credits of the creator and so on. But in this case, since I don't know where the images come from, the origins, I cannot do that. But obviously, ArtStation is just an amazing place to get inspired by other things. And if you think about it, if you would look at ArtStation and you would see a design that you really like, and you like to take elements of that design out, you kind of do what the software does. So in a way, it's not abusing their design, it's just reinventing it in ways that we imagine it in our mind, you know? So it's kind of there, you know. It's not here, not there, but it's kind of there. So yeah, amazing stuff. What else? What else? Um, when I'm gonna finish this mod, I'm going to make a rather more intricate tutorial in that post on how to use the tool if you want to generate your own things, because I clearly am not an expert on these things. I just learn as I go. I'm just a pioneer, if you want to call me like that. But I consider the fact that if I share the methods that I learn with other people that are interested, they can come with things that I never thought would be possible through these things. Because, to be honest, my imagination goes in certain directions and has its own sort of limits. But I always appreciate when somebody else um, inspires me with their designs that I think they're just glorious, and I just didn't try it to generate it that way. And it's always good to create this loop or feedback between us as people, as designers and artists and so on, and to always be open source. I think open source is the most amazing thing that ever happened in this world, because everybody contributes to with their own piece, and each piece creates a masterpiece. Okay, guys, you all stay awesome. I'll see you in the next episode of my life and yours, and it will be a fantastic future, I hope. And bye 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 bye.